What you tell them? I tell them. They say they're not going to build that right now, Brian. That's fine. I'm glad we got
I'd like to call the February Hoover Planning and Zoning meeting to order, please, and ask the Secretary to call the roll.
Mr. Wood?
Here.
Mr. McCain?
Here.
Mr. Lemack? Mr. Ron Harris?
Here.
Mr. Sammy Harris?
Here.
Mr. John Lyda?
Here.
Mr. Pate?
Here.
Mr. West?
Here.
And Mr. Underwood?
Here. Before I get started tonight, we still have some seats of some of you that are sitting and standing. Want to come sit down? And you have some seats. Might be tired. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Sammy Harris if he will give us an invitation, please. Okay. One seat here. Right here.
Okay, let's pray. Heavenly Father, we pause, Lord, just to thank you for this day, God, and we thank you that you are our Heavenly Father, and you're also our provider and protector, God, and we just thank you so much for that. Father, I thank you for our city, dear Lord. I thank you for the leaders of our city, dear Lord. I just pray that you continue to bless them, dear Lord, and help them to look for your leadership and your wisdom in all that they do, and also for our county and our state and our nation. Lord, thank you so much for all your blessings that are just too numerous to count, God. And I pray that you'd be with us tonight as we do conduct this meeting, and help us to always remember we are in your presence, God, and to be your hand and feet in all that we do. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
At this time, if I could get Mr. Kane to lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Prior to this meeting, each one of the commissioners was given the minutes for the January 14th meeting. If there are no changes to the minutes, I'll entertain a motion to approve as they are written.
So moved. Second.
The motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. At this time tonight, we have two subdivision cases. The Planning Commission has had an opportunity to look at both cases in work session and go over the problems that they had with the cases. However, if anyone has a problem with either one of the two cases tonight, if you will raise your hand, we will hear your comments on it, and we'll certainly listen to them. Otherwise, we intend to vote on these subdivision cases in block. So we'll vote on them after we hear both cases. Does anybody have any questions of what I just said? First case tonight is subdivision S02-1301. It's a final plat approved for the resurvey of Lot 2, Dicey addition to Hoover. Engineer recommends comments for approval. This is to combine 2 lots into one. Who's here representing this case? Any comments on this case? The next case tonight is S02-1302. Final map approved for the Preserve Phase 9, second edition of proposed 62-lot subdivision located along Preserve Parkway. Engineer's comments are it recommends approval contingent on the applicant providing a guarantee in the amount of $232,000. Who's here representing this case?
I am Andrew Phillips with Walter Shaw Engineering.
Okay. And you're aware of the $232,000 guarantee and you're okay with that?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Any comments on this case? All right. There's no comments? Any comments from the Planning Commission? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval. Second.
A motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. I would like the Secretary to note that I abstained from the second case, the O2 case, the road case. The next case tonight is a conditional use case. It's conditional use O2-1302. The Catholic Church is requesting the conditional use approval to add lights to the field located behind the church building for youth sports program, and this is the St. Peter's Church. Who's here representing this case? You would come down, sir, and tell us your name and address so we can get you recorded, and tell us what you have in mind.
Okay. My name is Todd Harrell. I am on the board of directors of the John Carroll Catholic Youth Football Program. The property that we're looking at is 2061 Patton Chapel Road, Birmingham, Alabama. What we're proposing is to install 4 light stands around the field to allow our kids to play football in the Jefferson Shelby Youth Football Association. That's the one we're a member of, and we do not have a place to play right now. We've gone through the whole process of taken bids on the lights, and we want to make sure that the lights are pointed in the correct position down, as well as the PA system will be not used after 8:30 p.m. Last year we had 3 teams that played 4 home games, so it's not a tremendous amount. If we had 50 people show up to a game, it was a banner night. So we're not talking Bryant Denny, but it was something that we need to grow our program in. Father Kelly was nice enough to allow us to begin the process of developing this, and this is the next step in our process of putting lights up. Anything else?
Tell us about the height that you like.
Yes, the height of the light stands will be less than 35 feet, which will be below the tree line. The lights will automatically go off at 9:30 p.m. the same time the lights go off in the parking lot currently. The PA system will be facing away from the residential area and will not, like I said earlier, will not be used past 8:30. Shouldn't be a problem with traffic. Traffic will follow the normal pattern through the front of the church off Patton Chapel Road. They will be instructed not to go out the back of the property or anything like that. So that shouldn't be an issue either. The lights will be, focused straight down, from 35 foot height. So that's what we're proposing.
Okay. Any questions from the plaintiffs? Anyone in the audience?
I'm Hal Humphrey. I'm a member of the Hoover Library Board. And as Mr. Pate knows, we probably don't have crowds like this at that meeting. But I come tonight as a parishioner at St. Peter's and the Pastoral Council President. And this is Father Kelly. And we wanted to give our full support of the parish to having this. As you know, the field back there, we just rode by it, there's a muddy mess. to have this facility that'll be multi-use. We're going to use it for our parish picnic, which is our largest event every year. We're going to allow it to be used by other sports teams. So we're very supportive of it and clean up that eyesore back there. So we wanted to express that from the church, not just from the football association. And I have no dog in the fight. My daughter's not a cheerleader or I don't have a son. So that's what we wanted to say. I think Father agrees.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I noticed this field's only 80 yards long.
Yes, sir, yes, sir, that's the length of our regulation football field for the youth football program.
Okay.
They're not a normal, it's only 40 yards wide as well, but that's from the rules of JYSFL.
Yes, sir. Come on down, let's hear what you got to say, please.
I'm Tim Carter, 3455 Sheila Drive. The field is directly behind my house, and I had several questions prepared, and Mr. Harrell did answer. He answered mostly what I was here about. I would like to request, though, that when they do put up the lights, if they could come and check in my backyard after dark, make sure it's not lighting up my yard. It sounds like it won't, but I would just like to make sure that the way they directed it, the height, that it doesn't look like it's daytime in my yard at night. And also, one question or one topic that I didn't hear: what are they planning to do about bathroom facilities? There's been a few events down there that my neighbors have complained because the bathroom facilities, for some, was behind our back fences. So, hopefully they will either build a restroom or portable facilities, something like that. Because I don't think going back up to the church is an option. It's a long walk. I think they will just some of them go back behind the fence, behind their yards.
We'll ask them that question.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, that was our plan. Ultimately, we will, as we go along, we'll put in a press box that will have bathroom facilities as well as a concession stand. Right now, we don't have that in our budget yet. What we will do is place portalettes there during the football season. And if I see anybody peeing in the woods, I'll call it.
Anyone else? I know she made a reference that it's not going to be like Bryant Denny, but you think it's going to be more like Jordan here?
We would love to grow our youth programs.
80 yards long, maybe they could score.
Okay, anybody else? Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good luck. I think the next case tonight is the premier case, obviously, the last case. We still have some seats for anybody who wants to sit down. There'll be time to do it now. I would ask that both sides of this, let's keep this meeting civil. And what we'll do is we'll listen to the developer first. And if you would hold your comments for any questions to whatever questions you have after these three present this case, I think the meeting will go better. We want to hear what you all got to say, and we intend to hear it. So if you can be patient and listen to what he has to say, maybe that'll answer some of those questions, and if it doesn't, we want to hear what you have to say. But we have to do it in an orderly fashion. I'm going to ask you to come down, speak into the microphone so we can get you recorded, and this is what you got to say. Any comments?
Can you move your microphone so we can hear you a little better?
Sure. Is that better? Do you have to repeat that, or did you get most of what I said? All right, the next case it's two cases. It's a zoning case and a conditional use. We'll listen to the zoning case first. It's Z 12-12-13, Signature Homes requesting to rezone property located at 2905 Home Drive from A1 to PRD, consisting of 109 units. Who's here representing this case? You come down and give us your name and address and tell us what you have in mind, please.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Belcher. My address is 3545 Market Street, Hoover, 35226. I'm here tonight requesting a rezoning from A1 to PRD on the property that we presented. Our application was originally submitted this past November. Since that date, we've conducted 3 separate public meetings. 2 of them have been at our office in Ross Bridge and 1 at the fire station in Inverness. At each of these meetings, we took questions from the audience, and at each of the subsequent meetings responded to the questions that we heard. We've made revisions to our initial proposed plan after each one of the meetings, and have also had, and I guess if you'll turn, I've got some handouts that I've given to each one of you. If you'll turn to the first page of it, it reflects the final version of our plan. Some of the revisions that we've made. We've also had numerous discussions with the Hoover school superintendent in order to create a plan that would accommodate the future needs of the school system. Our proposed plan includes 109 homes on 66 acres. The gross density of this site is 1.65 homes per acre. If you'll flip to page 2, you can see examples of what the exteriors of our proposed homes would look like. As stated in our zoning letter, we expect the homes in this community to average $400,000 in price. On page 3, I've included some information from the Birmingham Multiple Listing Service that shows home sales from each of the 3 communities that adjoin this property. These sales are from each of the last 3 years and are just listed by the different address and sales price that occurred for each of those properties. As you can see, our expected price will be equal or greater than the average selling price of each of these 3 communities that we adjoin. If you'll flip over to page 4, I've included a vicinity map. The homes that are in the city limits of Hoover are shown in yellow, and homes in unincorporated Shelby County are shown in red. To the east is the Woodford subdivision, which also has a gross density, well, it's actually 1.64 units per acre, so comparable to our proposal. To the north of the property is, immediately to the north is the sanctuary at Caldwell Crossings, and then to the north of it is the remainder of the Caldwell Crossings neighborhood. The sanctuary is 2.2 homes per acre, approximately. We chose the PRD zoning to allow us the flexibility to preserve open space and natural features that are found on this property. As mentioned in the application, 42.5% of this property will be preserved as open space. There's no other neighborhoods that surround us that even can make that statement. We're able to achieve this along with the low gross density by pulling the home sites closer together rather than spreading them out across the property itself. With our proposal, we're able to save a significant buffer around the property that borders other residential neighborhoods, protecting both their interest along with the future homeowners of this community. We've been asked by the Inverness Master Homeowners Association to protect these and preserve these common areas so that they may not be cleared in the future, and we've agreed to do so. If you'll flip to page 5, the next 6 pages, on pages 5 through 10, have cross sections of the property that demonstrate the protected buffers that we have on the property. On each of these pages, the first page has all 4 cross sections and then a map locating where each buffer is. If I've got some pages following it that are a little bit larger in case some of the numbers are not legible. But you'll see on each one of the pages, it's designated, the property line is designated with the letters PL. And you'll see that as you flip through, the typical home that's located in the, and this is, I'm sorry, let me back up. The location of this is on the eastern half of the property that borders the Woodford subdivision. So, and what you'll see after looking at each of the cross sections is that the typical home in Woodford is approximately 40 feet in elevation above the proposed homes in our development. And I think that, you know, this is really a great representation of how PRD zoning provides opportunity for us to preserve the natural features of this site. As you can see, the buffers range anywhere from within the property of this proposed rezoning, anywhere from 95 feet in width to 300 feet. So it allows us to have significant buffers adjoining the property. As mentioned, we've also requested for conditional use to allow for a community building and swimming pool. Those are on pages 11 through 13 of the handout. There's an existing home on the property. The home's approximately 1,500 square feet, and we plan to remodel the home and then add a swimming pool and a parking area. There are 2 lakes that are located on the property today. The larger of the 2 is 8.9 acres, and the smaller is approximately 2.8 acres. If you'll flip to the last page, page 14, I've got the lake shaded there. It's a little more green than blue, but you get the picture. There was a website created, SaveMoonglow.com, and on the homepage of that website, it says at the top of the page, Save Moonglow Lake. And we have no plans to remove Moonglow Lake, which is the 8.9 acre lake on the site. We do plan to recreate the stream that once existed by removing the smaller 2.8 acre unnamed lake that is on the site. This will also help in management of stormwater runoff. We know there's a concern about the downstream runoff, and we share the same concern. Proper management of stormwater is very important to us, as evidenced by our intent to maximize the forested areas of this property that we're preserving. We performed hydrology studies and determined that our plan will actually allow us to reduce the amount of stormwater runoff after post-construction of this site. We've worked with both Steve Castleman of Spectrum Environmental and Bob Easley of Alabama Engineering to evaluate all aspects of the environmental part of this property, and they're here tonight if we need to get into any further discussion about that. In closing, we have made significant changes to our original plan submitted for rezoning back in November. We've reduced the number of homes from 151 to 109 and have increased the buffers and common area of the property. We've committed to the residents of Caldwell Crossings that we'll install a fence along the northwest border of the property. Also, we've committed that as we move forward with the engineering of this neighborhood, we'll continue to work with the surrounding neighborhoods to address future issues that may arise. There's been dozens and dozens of questions at each of our meetings, and this plan shows our best efforts to accommodate those requests. So for that, I respectfully ask that you would approve our request. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we get started with any of the opposition to this, I think Superintendent of Education Andy Craig wanted to speak on this subject. You come down, Mr. Craig.
Thank you, Mr. Wood and members of the board. Appreciate the opportunity tonight to speak on behalf of the school system. We are potentially a party to this transaction, as you know, and felt it would be important to assist you in knowing where we stood at this point. At this point, Signature Homes, Mr. Belcher and I have worked together over the past couple months, and essentially at this point we have an agreement in place that certainly is contingent upon board approval before any transaction could be finalized, but we appreciate the concessions that he's made on behalf of the school system and our desire to have a site that's flexible to serve the needs of the district for a long term. But just to let you know that basically we have a gentleman's agreement the components of which I believe are suitable, and that I would plan to recommend to the board, but certainly in the closing of the transaction would be contingent upon their approval. So I hope that helps.
Thanks for coming in. I know you're busy and you have somewhere to go, so we appreciate you coming down and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, do we have somebody who wants to speak? Okay, if you would come up, give us your name and address, and if you hold your comments to the commission, if you don't mind. Thank you.
My name is Lindsay Mardick, and my address is 5343 Woodford Drive. I'm Vice President of the Inverness Master Homeowners Association and the President of the Woodford Homeowners Association, representing about 800 homes in the Inverness area. Tonight we are asking for an independent engineering evaluation of this project to address the long-term stability and the lasting effects of this proposed development will have on the area. There are several concerns with the filling in of the lake, and of course the lake would serve as a reservoir for all runoff, and of course to make sure that that is sustainable as well. The Inverness area was developed as a green community back in the 70s. It was our understanding that the O'Neill's vision for this property was for it to be developed, that it would be developed according to the way Inverness was developed, minimum or equal to any Inverness subdivision adjacent to the property. The lot sizes in Woodford, the area that's most impacted by this proposed development, ranges from 20 to 40,000 square feet. The average size of lots in Sanctuary average about 16,000 square feet. And the average size of the proposed lots in this development are about 8,000 to 9,000 square feet. It is our concern that the smaller homes and lots in this proposed development would directly impact the property values of the homes in Woodford and the surrounding areas. Once the land is mass graded and clear cut, the homes on Woodford that sit on the ridge will be able to see straight to Caldwell Mill Road. Our next concern is the traffic. The perceived traffic impact of a proposed development is an average of 9.6 car trips per day, according to the ITE standards. That would total about 1,000 car trips a day, round numbers, with just the proposed new homes. Taking some more round numbers, a proposed school with 250 students would generate about 1,100 car trips per day between the students and the employees and the other necessary vehicles. We have concerns of what measures have been taken that the roads would be upgraded and improved, including additional turn lanes, traffic lights, intersection upgrades, etc., and then any improvements that we've done in a proactive manner, not a reactive manner. I think recently we've seen how a reactive approach to traffic and road improvements have kind of gotten all of us in a bind on Highway 280. The intersection of Jaguar Drive and Caldwell Mill Road, will be located approximately about 600 to 650 feet from the entrance of this proposed development. What measures will be taken to address this potentially dangerous convergence of traffic? I'm sure you can imagine the mornings and the afternoons. You have school buses and cars and people commuting to work, and people turning out of this subdivision, whether they're going left, which would be almost virtually impossible to get out. How will that be handled? It is also my understanding from the city of Hoover City Engineer and the Shelby County Engineer that there are no plans in the foreseeable future, for at least 20 years, to make any improvements to the Caldwell Mill Road area. So it is our concern is how can these additional cars and traffic, this proposed development and the school, be added to this road and area, which is such a major artery for the Valleydale Road corridor that connects also to 280. And what commitments will be made to the residents and the voters in this area that this will be addressed. Ingress and egress into the subdivision. Again, we have some major concerns of how this will be addressed. Will there be a traffic signal installed to assist the cars pulling in and out? Based on the developer's traffic study that was provided to us late last week, the residents of the subdivision will not be able to enter or exit during the morning or afternoon school peak traffic. It is also my understanding that the current traffic study does not include the addition of the grammar school. When will that be studied and the impact of it reviewed and taken into account? Just to kind of give a example, if someone in the neighborhood has to call an ambulance at peak traffic time, 7:15 in the morning, and it's something that's life-threatening. They might can take the emergency access roads to get in, but how are they going to get this ambulance out during this peak traffic time if there's not a stop to get them to a hospital? Because in any kind of a serious situation, every minute counts. So it's not just the traffic or the people that are commuting on these roads currently, but how will the service to the residents be as well? Our next concern is runoff. How will the runoff during construction be controlled? And then, of course, what kind of post-construction stormwater plan will be implemented? We have concerns of the increase in sediment pollution and the impact this development will have on nearby neighborhoods, watershed, and the waterways. We also have concerns with the runoff increase with the mass grading of the property, building the rooftops, adding asphalt, and how do you ensure that in-stream erosion will not be increased downstream, especially reducing the storage capacity of moving the lower lake, and how will that be taken into account to make sure that all this is taken care of. And then, of course, also what measures will be put in place to protect the rivers downstream from the increase. The runoff from the development drains into Acton Creek, which is in the National Flood Insurance Program. And has this impact been investigated, and how much additional flooding will occur? We feel that these are important items that need to be addressed on the front end, because we have seen how development has caused major flooding in surrounding areas that have been impacted by development in Pelham, Lincoln, and Hoover. ADM and City of Hoover requirements and regulations are minimums. We want to make sure that this is all taken into account with the entire development. Drainage will be our next concern. We want to make sure that before this is approved, that the government entities, all government entities are involved, and they are reviewing this and exploring all the concerns of both the residents that live in the surrounding areas and of the future residents of this subdivision. Will there be stormwater detention for this development to mitigate the runoff increases? And will the Minglo Lake be used for detention? Another one of our concerns would be the impact on the current utility structure. This would actually tie into the Inverness sewer plant, which is located in the back of Woodford. And it would tie in to, there's I believe, a storm sewer right there that's down below Berry Middle School. What are the planned upgrades or improvements that we made to the Inverness plant to accommodate the extra development? And of course, what would be the daily impact on the current system that we have now? I know it was mentioned at a city council meeting back in 2012 in May that due to some upcoming subdivisions in the area, there was an inflow infiltration project that was planned. We would like to know when this will be performed, and as residents of the Inverness community, we'd like to be updated on the status of this project regularly, the opportunity to review any reports submitted on this. One of our main concerns as well is the impact of this development on the Moonglow Lake. Moonglow Lake is a perennial stream, a solid blue line on the USGS map. The upper lake is approximately 9 plus minus acres. Lower lake is somewhere between 3 and 4 acres. We're building 109 homes around this lake in this tight density. What is the short and long-term impact on the lake? The lake was originally constructed with only one house and all the natural areas surrounding it. It is a concern that we feel needs to be addressed on the upfront, because it would also dictate how much money is spent in the project as it's developed in the engineering phase. And that was something that Signature would probably want to know on the upfront as well. Some of the questions that we have is, will this lake sit above the road? Are the dam and the spillway large enough to accommodate the additional water due to the additional runoff that will be created by taking away the natural area where you get usually groundwater and creating more surface water? And of course, what is the impact of this downstream of this development? And how will the infrastructure downstream be upgraded to accommodate the additional flow? And can the lake accommodate this without overtopping? Since there's only one spillway for the lake, where does the outflow from the lake go during an emergency situation? Does it go between the houses and over the public street? That's a concern to not only the future residents of this area, but up to the residents of the surrounding areas. And one of our other concerns is land such a shortage that it's necessary to fill in a lake to build a school? Of course, again, what kind of impact does this have downstream when you're taking away a detention pond or retention of the current runoff and you're putting it into the downstream? Because I did not see that we were increasing the size of the current lake, the larger lake, in order to handle all this. In the common areas, we had some questions about how the common areas would be developed and how will the residents of this area access the common areas. It appears to be that they're located behind homes, and if the common area is directly behind somebody's house, do you walk through somebody's yard to access it, or do you walk down to this one point, maybe like, for example, the southeast side of the lake, and then walk all the way around to the northeast side to access the common area. So what kind of plans we put in place to make sure those are accessible to the residents of the area. I've had many concerns of the environmental impact of this development as well. The residents that live along the ridge in Woodford, that look down over this property, are able to see the many deer. I've heard 40 and 50 deer, sometimes even packs of 10 and 12 at a time, that live on this property, along with other animals, whether it's beaver, skunks, ox, a lot of birds. What will be done to either relocate this wildlife or to help find new homes, or will those new homes for these wildlife become our front yards? There's a lot of deer population in the Inverness area and in surrounding areas as well, especially development as it has grown over the years. What will be done to help this issue? Because then that also becomes concerns for us as residents of deer that dart out in front of your car, and accidents and so forth, which we've had several in the Inverness area already. This is one of the largest tracts of land in our area that actually serve as a wildlife habitat. How will that be taken into account for this development? Some other concerns that we've had is with the protective covenants. We have reviewed the covenants that were submitted with the application. There were several things in it that were not addressed that we would like to have addressed. For example, what is the use of the lake by the residents? Would it be motorized or non-motorized boats? Can it be fished in or can it not be fished in? What will be the maintenance of the lake? Who will maintain the common areas and spillway? How will it be verified that this lake will be taken care of, and so that if there is a big rain, that it won't overtop or it won't breach any of the systems that are already in place? Not just today or tomorrow, but after the development lease 15 to 20 years from now. What will be the details as far as what is to be allowed in the backyards or the on-street parking, whether it's in the alleys, and all those kind of things? Those affect the direct property values of the people living in Woodford, especially sitting up on the ridge looking down onto this property. I know I've raised and posed many major questions and concerns of this project for the Inverness area and our residents. And we would like to see these answered and addressed before the project is approved. We have met with the developer. We have made several requests. Some they've made, some they have not. But I'd also like to mention as well that we have a petition signed by over 1,000 people that was delivered to Vanessa last week, and I want to make sure that that was given to the Hoover Planning and Zoning members and to the City Council members of the concerns of the areas, not just in Inverness, but in all the surrounding neighborhoods in the area. I also have an engineering report that's been prepared by one of our experts with concerns regarding the stormwater impact of this development that I would like to give to you this time. And I'd also like to ask that those that are here tonight in opposition for this proposed development to please stand. Well, raise your hand if you're standing. All right. Thank you for your time tonight, for the opportunity to speak.
I'm Noel Chambliss. I live at 2909 Berkeley Drive in Birmingham, and I'm a Hoover resident. I want to go through this fairly quickly, but and I've got a couple of copies here, but didn't have time to make so many. what I want to go through is the impacts of the zoning, the timeline that we've gone through, the issues that we have, and I think I'll mention a lot different from what Lindsay did. The overview of the parcel, zoning options, the current zoning, what's proposed, and my different view of how PRD zoning is compared to what they're talking about in Inverness, the Caldwell Mill traffic zoning change, my assessment of it in a summary. Really what we're talking about is an impact of lakes, the sanctuary, the wildlife, the natural floodplain, the environment, the ecosystem, Caldwell Mill Road, the schools. Nothing was said about how many students are going to come out of this development, safety, and what's going to happen to existing homes. Lindsay made a question about the sewer system and the quality of life for all those around this development. And I won't go through all of this, but it may be with my glasses on. There it is, it's in focus now. So effectively, we spent our holidays reacting to the zoning that came out right before Thanksgiving and through the holidays, so we thank you for putting this right before the holidays. And it looks like we'll be going through March if this timeline fits. The issues about the zoning, it's 3 acres per home now, okay? And that was been there for quite a while. The PRD zoning allows up to 10 homes per acre, where the proposed plan has an average of 5. And I'll define how I get to 5 and see if you agree. We got homes that we have just been given copies of on Thursday and you tonight that have rear alleys. And we're not really fond of rear alleys in a development right next to us, and density. We got drainage issues because all of our houses, I think there's between 112 and 120 acres feeding this pond, this lake that goes into the other lake. One lake's going to be taken away, and if you're familiar with a lake, water's got to get out of that lake somehow, and it's going to be filled up with school and houses behind it. The traffic impacted right now, you've got Spain Park, Berry Middle School, Jeff State, all there, plus all the people coming to the park, Veterans Park. And they're all coming down this road. Now there's going to be a new exit, and I'll show you a little bit about that, if you'll bear with me, north of Jaguar Drive, that I understand is there's going to be a part of it restriped so that the people coming out of the development headed toward Valleydale Road can have a way to get out. An additional 1,280 cars based upon the 128 houses. This plan only has 109, but there's 19 more planned in an adjacent piece of property that will be rezoned as soon as this is. It's interesting that the new elementary school, now not on Spain Park property, but now being planned as part of the development with numerous homes adjacent to the playground. It's interesting that we have developed Spain Park, the whole Spain Park, and there's not a room for a school. When will the school be built? How many students? All that's going to affect this. Also, for me, I have a home that backs up to this, but there's no way that I could, if I have a child or a grandchild or someone that buys my home, I assume I won't live forever. There's no way to get to these schools, and I'll show you that. And of course, all the traffic study that's been done is not part of what the study's been given to you. So, and I'll show you how that's looking right now. The issue is the greenway. You know, we're spending millions of dollars to build a greenway through Inverness, and we're not attacking it here and impacting the sewer system. If you look at that photo, it looks really nice before the, yes, thank you. And there we go. So really this is Inverness, part of Inverness, and this is mature trees that weren't cut down, by the way. My yard is somewhere along right there, and I didn't plant any of those trees. Some in the front blew down, so thankful for high winds, but that's all. You'll see what it looks like when you have a clear cut. If you're going to build that school, it's going to start here and come up through here, filling that lake all the way up, and there'll be some trees around. So it's not So this is a different view. This is a, if I can figure out this, there we go. This is where you see that stripe, if you can see that, that's the stripe, don't get in this lane. Okay, this exit for that new development will be coming out right here. All of this will be, if you're going to put a school, I assume it's going to fill in the lake and the school will cover this property. All these trees will be gone. All this will be houses. There'll be some trees along here and all this will be cut down except for a few trees here. And over here, there will be some estate lots from the opposite side. This is what a PRD zoning looks like when you're working it. That's what it's going to look over here, in my opinion. So there's another view from the houses at Mill Springs Estates and the other lots. This has already been taken out and they've gone sort of through here and put PRD zoning and took out all these trees. So effectively what you get over here is you're going to have through this area. But this was the plan presented to us on November 29th. It had the houses backed up all the way up on top of this ridge, which is about 600-foot elevation down to 500-something foot elevation. There's the existing lake with the estate lots over here. All of this are houses. This was the school property. This A1 will have 19 or so more houses. I live about right there. So, needless to say, very middle school's here. I guess I'd get in my car, drive around, get back down here somewhere, and eventually go over to the school property. This is an overlay of the latest plan. If you can sort of visualize, I couldn't twist it enough. There's the road, and here's the school. All through here, covering part of this lake, and up the side here, up to about right there is part of the school property, which is that point right there. Houses. That's sort of my drawing on a computer. Entrance will come out right here. Future school here, the homes in here. And as you can see, this is what PRD zoning looks like over in Crossing. I think there's 530-something houses over there. Total car count about 5,300. You have the zoning districts. You have several options. You've got state, you've got agriculture, which is there, state 1, state 2, R1, R2, all the way down to PRD. Well, agricultural district has, and I had to look this up, unless you do this every day, I guess nobody really knows this. Front 75 feet, rear 75 feet, and side 25 feet, but you got a house for 3 acres, which would be 20-something houses on this property. Then you've got E1, which is 75 feet front, 75 feet rear, 25 feet side, and it's 1 acre. So we're going past all of these options. So we got E2, which is 50 feet, 50 feet, and 15 on the side, 20,000 square foot lot. And that's where I think my house fits, even though it may not be exactly an E2 or exactly an R1. It's got 23,000, that's typical of the lots. And when I buy an acre of land, a piece of land, I don't buy a road, I don't buy a lake, I buy a piece of property they deed to me. So my house happens to be 55, and I think most of the houses that I own Berkeley are somewhere in that range. My lot's got 120 feet behind the house. The single family R1 is 15,000 square feet, and there are probably some R1s in the subdivision when you get to certain lots. R2 is 20 feet up front, 25 in the rear. What's a PRD? Well, it can be 60 feet. Remember, if you do a PRD, you've got variations without having to prove. You also got a front, which can be 25 feet, and if I misspelled anything here, nobody would spell check me, okay? And it was getting very late. So I've got 5 feet if you've got rear access. Now, there's nothing in Inverness close to us. This has this. If there's a separation in Inverness, you've got a fairway, woods behind the other property before you get to a change of property. The average density can go 4 units per gross acre, and I didn't throw in the term gross acre, all that I'd written up, but it includes other stuff. And you can have up to 10 dwellings, okay? So I looked up Hoover Code of Ordinances, and it says the fundamental purpose of these ordinances, which is all these zonings, is to promote the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare, provide orderly development and growth, avoid congestion on the public roads and streets, conserve life, property, and natural resources, which are the trees, and the expenditure of funds for public improvement, conform the use of land and resources and properties for the general good and benefit to the people of Hoover. That is the code on section 1. Section 2 is just other words about that. What is a PRD? It basically states what I had summarized over there, but I pulled this out of the code, which says 4 dwellings per gross acre up to 10. So you'll see some of that around if you look. In fact, I'll show you some. What's the intent, if I go down through the code, what is the intent of planned residential development? It encourages the preservation and enhancement of natural amenities of the site. Okay? Flexibility, general buildings changes. If you look at Inverness, there's probably not 2 houses alike, so I call that flexible. And preserve public health, safety, and general welfare. Well, I said, well, okay, what does preserve mean? It says to maintain safety from injury, peril, or harm, to protect unaltered condition, or to keep or maintain intact. And preservation is basically environmentally the activity of protecting the environment from pollution or destruction. So you can go through that one. The natural part is the trees and the water, and to enhance is to raise to a higher degree or intensity, or to magnify, or to improve, or make something better, or to raise the value or price. Amenities, we consider that something is to be more pleasant and attractive. I'm just using the words that's written in the ordinance, in the code, to evaluate this. So this is a proposed plan. And when you take out every tree in all of this area, and this area, and this area, you don't have much left. I'm sorry. Let me go talk about an actual density versus what we call gross density. If you got a lot that I purchased that's 7,200 feet by 87, which is about these lots, figure that into an acre of what is real square feet, I get 5 to 6 houses per acre. I don't care how you muck the numbers. Moon glow today, I always say, well, moon glow tomorrow. This is Berkeley Drive. I think you get the picture. This is all going to have to be gone. All of this. All of that. This is the lower lake to be filled if you haven't been there. It's, I think, 3.8 acres by our consultant's calculations. Let me give you some ideas of what we have around us that might more fit than what is in Woodford. I did this. I just went up to Beaumont, which is a recently developed property, and I think Signature did this. This is what they call the common area, which is a path along the water. That's what the houses look when you put houses back to back. This is Chase Lake with rear entrances. The houses are up 5 feet from the yard, from the drive. That's the back of it when you get looking through the alleyways. There might be others. All right, what is looking on Chase Lake properties? Well, this, if you want to look at this, this is not. This is an apartment complex that was already there. Okay, so Chase Lake fit in all their houses down below an apartment, which had, I guess, to them the back alleys. But that will be us in the future. This is Inverness Highlands, which is behind Southeastern Jewelers, the commercial area, and this is the common area. Well, let me point that. Go back and see the common area. For the mountain climber, I suppose. All right, let me give you a difference between Berkeley Drive, which is really the property, the houses that look down. That happens to be my house. This is neighbor's house, and I didn't take pictures of everything, but if you go down Woodford, basically you got the same kind of process. Houses with lots. Just go through, that's one of the houses, that's one neighbor's house, another neighbor's, actually the home that I just got paid for, another neighbor, and that's the lot behind my house. That's the 100, well, it's behind my neighbor's house, but mine is just next door to that. Both are neighbors. It's all woods, all natural. We're providing a buffer. Also, one thing is that we have paid, I think Hoover paid $100,000 and Shelby County paid $100,000 to do a greenway study. There's nothing in this plan that connects. See, there's a path, but there's nothing in this plan that connects the school to the people. There's actually 4 or 5 houses here that's in Hoover. So the middle school is the school that is built. Okay, there's nobody, you can't really get there now. Well, you can get your car to get there. That's it. So there's no greenway plan. Let me give you an idea of what Inverness has versus a lake that's being filled up. We got the nature park of 78 acres. We got Lake Heather, it's 110 acres. We got Inverness Point Lake, 7 acres. We got the golf course, 180 acres. And that's right across the street from me and right behind a lot of people. So the elementary school was given 20 acres, the sewer plant 35, the fire station 2, and there's a 30-foot buffer all around the property. So effectively, we got 433 acres in the Inverness community. That's not in any of the calculations that's been quoted as the density being the same in Woodford as it is in this development. The density cannot be the same of 1.67 or 1 point between us and that calculation. We've got these areas are not being computed in their numbers. Let me give you an idea of what this is. A traffic study is good. You can put a strip on the ground and you can count, and then you can look at the report and then you can say, well, what's missing is what I always like to look at. What's missing in the report? Well, if I could ask the traffic engineer to study, I'd say there was the results of the 24-hour traffic study, one 24-hour period, shows 501 vehicles turning into Jaguar Drive coming from the north, which would be down the hill, headed toward Valledale, in the 7:15 a.m. peak hour, which I assume means 7:15 to 8:15. The question would be, how many of those vehicles are school buses? Because if we're talking about a turn lane, it's a lot different turning buses that's 40 feet long than cars that's 18 feet long. What is the speed of those vehicles approaching that intersection at the proposed, as they pass that new subdivision entrance? The next question would be the average number of vehicles per minute would be, based on this number, like 8 arriving at the red light. But the average does not apply to actual traffic patterns. So what is the recommended length of the turn lane into Jaguar Drive? All right, the report also shows that coming out of development, let's just put Jaguar Drive here, subdivision here, school that way, Valledale this way. If I'm coming out headed toward that direction, 31 cars, they say, will come out during the peak hour. That's 1 every 2 minutes. All right. Will there be a threat to public safety if the cars coming out with all these vehicles headed into Jaguar Drive? All right, here's a shot that I took, probably a month ago. I'm standing down toward Jaguar Drive, looking north. Another shot. Here they're coming up the hill in the morning. This is about 8:15. They're lined up to the bottom of the hill. That's Valledale in this direction. This is the road headed out. All the cars are lined up to get through this intersection headed north, I'll call it. This is typical buses lined up because unlike when I went to school, the bus don't just go to school, they go to school, come back, and they make multiple trips. This was this morning. Cars are backed up into, let's just give you a picture. You can't see the red light, can you? The development is somewhere down here, the entrance to development. These cars are through this, all the way down, past the stripe line, all the way to Jaguar Drive. At one time, and I didn't stay there all morning, but there were 8 buses lined up to take a left. This is the driveway. This is where the car comes out and starts ahead. Can you see anything coming? Not really. Maybe they can. But they're lined up. All right. So I didn't have a panorama view, but there's more. There's the other direction. They're past the sanctuary. Okay. So by saying that we can do a car count and not affect and put in a subdivision and build another new school and ignore what's taking place. Now this is actually further north than the driveway, which would be somewhere down here. And you can, if you can see clearly, there's 8 buses, but you can't see them. This is another. There's 1, 2, 3, and I can see one down at the red line. They're lined up. This is my assessment. I think this is preferential treatment which defeats the objective of the zoning, resulting in piecemeal zoning. We're fixing to have a school, another piece of property, or effectively no zoning. The landowner investment in this property, and we found that out, is less than the value of any one home in the area. The actual taxes paid by this individual was $330 for the last 22 years, where I paid about $60,000. We built the infrastructure and so the sewer treatment, and it funded it. So the rezoning of the property PRD is not a part of a thoroughly considered plan calculated to best serve the community, and the use is different from the Woodford subdivision, which was one of the most impacted subdivisions. It's not the most necessarily the only one. The change in use is not desirable in the neighborhoods. The change in use will adversely alter the characteristics of the neighborhood. The change will negatively affect the neighborhood's property values. The scale of the project is extensive. When you start filling in a lake, putting another several hundred cars, traffic out on the road, you're affecting everything. The change poses a threat to the health and safety of the neighborhood. You can't just dump all these cars going left and right, buses coming in, and not have a safety issue. There is no inordinate economic burden or hardship on the property owner sufficient to justify the change to PRD zoning. And we consider the PRD zoning as spot zoning. We also consider it piecemeal. There are 91 acres to be rezoned, but it was 12.3, I understand. Now it's 17, just as Mr. Craig came up and announced. Where 9 acres is not being touched, and then we're not really addressing the 17 acres on what's going to happen to this school and how many cars and what's going to happen. Fundamental fairness is not exhibited by the rezoning. And of course, the zoning is a legislative process, and it must be proven by clear and convincing evidence. And the destruction, elimination, and removal of probably 95% of these trees are hardwood trees. These are not pines. The leveling of the natural rolling terrain to a flat piece of earth, because if you're going to build a school, it's going to be flat. If it's going to build ball fields, it's going to be flat. If you're going to build PRD, it's going to be flat wherever it's at. And not only that, we're going to be looking down on this property. I looked at what I thought was PRD zoning, Caldwell Mill Crossing, the preserve. That's 423 homes plus 113 in the sanctuary, has resulted in about 5,360 cars on the Caldwell Mill Road each day, and that's within about a mile and a half. Now we're fixing to add another 1,280, which will make about 7,000 cars without the school being added. You know, every time you build a house that doesn't have any trees, these houses don't have enough room to put a little 3-inch tree, which is great for beauty. It'll never provide a shade, and by the DOE, this is a 20% increase in your utilities if you don't have any trees. And it never ends, because every house will never be able to recover from that. Of course, I've just mentioned the lot size being much smaller than the others. And I think a reasonable person, I hope to think that we're all reasonable people, and I am too, and you are, that this doesn't pass the reasonable person standard. Summarizing, I think this does not meet the requirements based on the Code of Zoning objectives, which is what you have to go by. Measuring against the objectives, it does not promote public health, morals, general welfare, or avoids congestion on public roads or streets. I question the fact that it does conserve life and property and nature. I think cleaning out all the trees and filling the lake doesn't preserve natural resources, and that we'll be expending funds to improve this process. And it doesn't encourage preservation and enhancement of natural amenities. Thank you.
Anyone else wants to speak on this issue?
Henry Hager, president of the Sanctuary at Caldwell Crossing. I'd like to address the board on the following points. The association, our association, opposes the proposed development, as it would like to propose development to have lots at least the same size as those in the sanctuary. If the Planning Commission is inclined to give favorable recommendations to the plan, the association asks that such recommendations be contingent on the following 5 points. As you have on your plans, there is an emergency entrance to install and maintain a limited access gate on the emergency access road off Crossings View. The emergency access road should be only 1 lane wide. And to support this, this is the gate that was required by the developer in our section, coming out of the Winford section. We'd also like, as a second point, note if this goes through, no construction traffic is to be allowed to use the emergency road that leads into the sanctuary. The 50-foot distance between lots 36 and 37 will remain undisturbed with no trees removed, and that is down at the far end of the cul-de-sac next to the sanctuary. Say that again, please. Those numbers. The 50-foot section, that is down in the corner right here. No trees removed down there. On the proposed future development, which is the 9 acres above, and I don't have it, right in here, the 9 acres for future residents, there's 19 homes there. This developer's already addressed putting a fence along that area, which we requested him to do. We requested it be PVC coated to match the existing chain link fence that runs south of the sanctuary that the O'Neill property owner put up. We also request along that area a 40-foot buffer zone where no trees are removed.
Let me just stop you there. We're not here to talk about, the only thing we're here to talk about tonight is the case in front of us. So
he addressed it.
We can't talk about, we can't make any promises on what might happen in the future.
Good enough.
It's not even the city of Hoover. So it may or may not happen, but we only talk about what we're looking at tonight.
Good enough. He addressed it. That's fine. As for the gate, the association already has a similar agreement with the Wingate section of Inverness. And that agreement should be an appropriate model for the terms and conditions of making a road connecting Caldwell Crossing truly to be an emergency road. If you have an emergency road, it needs a control gate, which we already have in our section coming out of the Wingate section. If the developer truly intends for the road to be an emergency road only, it should not object to the proposed gate. And he lists that on there as emergency access road only. For the areas that are preferred to be undisturbed or buffered, there needs to be an affirmative obligation to replant if the buffer are damaged or compromised. As for the yet to be annexed property, I can't speak on that again. That was my next contingent.
No point talking about something we have no control over.
In that, we would like to give you a petition and something from the Caldwell River Society concerning the water runoff. And here is the list of the points. Item 4 cannot be included, and that's what we have. Thank you, sir.
Sir. We have some more comments? We're going to take one more, and then I think we've got a lot of questions that have been raised tonight, and we're going to ask the developer to answer, and maybe that will stop. Maybe that will stop some questions. If it doesn't, we'll let you talk. Okay? But we're going to let them come up and address, because we've got a whole bunch of things that was brought up that we need to hear what their answers are. Yes, go ahead.
Robert Angus, 2069 Lakeview Lane, 35244. I live on Indian Valley Lake, which is fed by Acton Creek, which is where Mungo Lake feeds into. So we're directly downstream. Indian Valley Lake is about 100 acres, has approximately 100 residences live on the lake. I'm currently the treasurer of the Valley Lake Association and past president. I'd like to speak to the issue of runoff, specifically silt control. We have been repeatedly frustrated by the inability of current best management practices of developments to protect our lake from the inflow of silt. I have a picture here from Google Maps of the upper end of our lake where Acton Creek flows in. And it does a beautiful job of showing there's almost no water left. And so the homeowners in the upper end of our lake have been very frustrated. They can hardly get a boat in now. And I'm sure their property values have been greatly affected by that. They paid a premium for lakefront property, and they now live on a swamp. Would also like to show a picture of the lake I took this morning. It looks like mud, showing you that the current permitted developments in the watershed, their best management practices are failing. And so it's been a history and it's ongoing. So we're very concerned that development of this intensity, even though they will show you best management practices for silt control, it rains a lot in Alabama, and we've seen over and over again that when it does, these things fail. So we would ask that if you decide to approve this, that they have a fairly substantial bond so that when their best management practices fail and silt flows into our lake, there will be money for cleanup.
I'll get to you, sir. I promise.
Very similar to this one.
I'll get to you, I promise. Okay. Let's let them answer all these questions. All right, Doctor, I have a whole bunch of questions here. Maybe you can start answering some of them. And I'll start out. I know a lot of issues are about traffic study. I know you have a traffic study report. Can you tell us everything you know about the traffic study?
I'm not sure how to answer that. I mean, we do have a traffic study. I've got Bob Beasley here as the engineer has reviewed it. He may be best to discuss it, or if you wanted me to answer any of these specific questions.
Well, I had, when you talk about turn lanes, when you talk about this traffic study with the school, without the school, I'm trying to make notes as I was going to do it, but the striping, how you going to do the striping?
Okay.
Tell us what you're going to do.
All right, well, we can certainly discuss the traffic study relative to the development itself.
Okay.
Obviously, there's not enough information to perform a full traffic study in the school. A lot of doubt, a lot of assumptions.
Okay.
From hearing Mr. Craig tonight, he didn't have any specific information as to size or quantity of students, what have you. So, but we can speak to the impact from the we had.
Okay.
Bob?
My name is Bob Beasley with Alabama Engineering. The traffic study was prepared based on 140 residences on this site, taking into account some potential for future growth. We don't think we'll get to 140, but it was prepared a while back before we reduced the number to where we are now. The traffic study was prepared by Skipper Consulting. It was based on actual traffic counts on Caldwell Mill Road and at the intersection of Jaguar Drive and Caldwell Mill Road. So they counted cars where our proposed entrance will be and at the intersection to the south. They made some recommendations in the traffic study. One recommendation would be to construct a right turn lane. So if you're driving northbound on Caldwell Mill Road, there would be a right turn lane into the development. Another recommendation was to restripe the existing center lane to create a left turn lane into our proposed new entrance. They calculated level of service at Jaguar Drive as it is now and post development at the completion of this development. And generally the level of service of these intersections were the same after construction, after development as before development. There is an addition of depending on for 109, it's approximately 10 cars per day per house. So there is an additional loading on Caldwell Mill Road. That additional loading does not decrease does not exceed the capacity of the intersections that are in there now. Jaguar Drive has a long way. Jaguar southbound Caldwell Mill has a long left turn time into Jaguar Drive. In talking with the traffic engineer today, he noted that in most cycles of that green light in the morning peak time, that queue cleared, so that there would be, you could pull out of this development onto Caldwell Mill Road during most cycles of in the morning in the AM peak, so that one of the comments was that you couldn't get out, and that's not the finding of the traffic engineer.
Are you proposing to put in the turn lane that they are?
We are proposing to put in the right turn lane and restripe the existing center lane into a left turn lane.
Any other questions? Okay. Russell, let's talk a little bit about drainage, downstream drains, removing the pond. I know you've got some studies done on that sort of thing. Tell us what you found out.
Don't sit down too much, but yeah, we have done studies that would that allow for a redesign of the current spillway that's in place on the lake itself. What we did find, and what's interesting is we talk about maintaining natural state, but there's nothing natural about a lake. A lake is man-made, and the natural habitat is a free-flowing stream. And so,
please, let's show some respect.
Thank you. And so, when we do remove the lower lake, that's what we'll do, is recreate the stream that was once there to help reduce the amount of runoff that's going downstream. Mr. Easley can speak specifically to the study that we performed on the lake and the changes that will occur to the spillway, which will result in reducing the amount of stormwater runoff that currently exists on the site today. I know that he's had conversations also with Mr. Long, the city engineer, and reviewed that study with him as well.
Okay.
As part of the proposed plan, the 2.85 acre lower lake would be removed. Currently that lake has a 12-inch PVC principal spillway straining almost 140 acres, and then an earthen dam spillway, for anything that won't go through the pipe. The upper lake, what everybody calls Moonbow Lake, is about 9 acres. It has a concrete spillway, broad-crested spillway. It's actually part of the driveway. So if you come off Caldwell Mill Road, drive down to go to the house that's on this piece of property, you'll actually drive over the spillway through the water that flows out of the lake. There's very little storage in that lake during storm events because it's such a large spillway. It passes most of the water. The 100-year flood elevation only comes up just slightly over a foot. That's the nature of that spillway. Our proposal is to remove the lower lake and to improve the spillway of the upper lake to create more storage than what is there now. So right now, there's about 17 acre-feet of storage in the lake during the 100-year storm. When we improve the spillway, there'll be about 40 acre-feet of storage, which basically means we're more than doubling the amount of storage in that lake so that we can attenuate the peak flows coming off the site. Even with removal of the lower lake, we'll actually decrease the 25-year and the 100-year storm so that when we're done developing, there'll be less peak runoff coming off the site than there is today.
And you can do that by redoing the spillway.
That's correct.
Okay. Any questions? Planning Commission. What about
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. You mentioned that he had done some studies along with our engineer, Mr. Long. Would Mr. Long have any more comments relative to what he just said?
This one.
We have, can you hear this microphone? We did get the report, we've looked over it, the numbers are accurate, the projections, so forth. The volumes of about 15,600 cars a day on Caldwell Mill Road presently. This development would add about 1,100 per day to Caldwell Mill Road. The site development traffic typically can be handled by a side street stop sign for that volume. The issue here, I think we need to look at this in a lot of detail, is the left turn exiting going southbound and the existing queue that's there. And I think there are many things that could be done to improve on that. Signal timing adjustments and potentially other improvements that would reduce that queue length. But that is an issue that needs to be addressed, and I think we can look at that in more detail. Was there any other questions you had for me on this traffic issue?
I was actually just talking about the lake issue. Were you involved in any of the lake assessments that they did?
I have
Did you look
discussed,
at those?
I have discussed the storage issues there, and it's, you know, when you have a lake on a development like this, it does offer you the opportunity for erosion control and for attenuating the major storms. So there's an extremely good benefit for this development to reduce the peak flows, because that will be an issue, you know, in storm events. So thank goodness the lake can be improved to detain water.
Let's talk a little bit about erosion control, because that's been brought up, and some downstream people are concerned about sedimentation in their life.
At the stage we are in zoning, we have not completed engineering drawings. We don't have grading plans, we don't have a road control, which is typical at the point where we are here today at rezoning. When we do get to the point of preliminary plat, we would file preliminary plat along with construction drawings, along with erosion control drawings. I heard one of the neighbors from way down the street talking about that their lake gets silted in. Obviously, we would be working with the Corps of Engineers on this lake work and ADEM on permitting for construction activities. And as a requirement, along with the City of Hoover and ADEM and the Corps of Engineers, we would be required to comply with best management practices and to create sediment ponds as appropriate to keep silt from running off the site and onto downstream properties.
How can you clear cut something
Whoa,
and
whoa,
then
whoa.
think that
We're not
everything's
going
going to
to
be
do this from now. We'll let you come up here and talk in a few minutes. I'm going to ask him the questions first. Any questions from the Planning Commission on anything he's talked about so far?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Is there going to be a new retention facility on this property, and where would that be located?
No, what we would do is raise the dam on the existing lake so that more water can be stored in the big lake, Moonglow Lake. Moonglow Lake is not measured right now, it would essentially be about the same size that we're doing, but we would raise the dam about 4 feet, and in that, by raising it 4 feet, it creates additional storage so that you get a higher volume into the lake. It lets water out at a slower rate to decrease the peak flow rate downstream.
That going to decrease the size of the lake?
At normal pooling would be essentially the same. At full pool, at a 100-year flood elevation, for instance, it would be larger. It would be, right now, I think it's 1.3 feet above the spillway. 100-year flood is 1.3 feet above the spillway. When we're done, it's about 4 feet above the spillway. So it does increases the depth. So at a full pool, in a 100-year storm event, you would see a larger water surface area. We wouldn't clear that. We'd leave the trees right down to the lake where they are, just like a normal lake. It just fills up. It goes out of its banks during storm events, and then after storm event, it would return to its normal size.
Any other questions on that? Okay, there was a question on the sewage treatment plant. That may be a question for us with regard to this, how it was going to impact our treatment plant. You have that answer? Can I ask you something you can't answer?
This site has been pre-studied as far as generating a certain number of, a certain amount of sewage from the site, and the Inverness plant, to my knowledge, can accommodate this site. It can, yes, sir.
What he said was that the Inverness plant has been studied and it can handle the volume of these houses. It can. Okay, there were some other comments, Mr. Belcher.
Well, one other thing, in answering that question for you, I spoke with Phil McGraw at City of Hoover in their engineering department. The pump station, there's a pump station along Jaguar Drive. That pump station was sized, but at the time it was built, it was sized to handle development of the Moonglow Lake property.
So this will gravity flow into that pump station and then that will go on over to the plant.
That's correct.
Okay. Mr. Belcher. We had some questions concerning the access road. They wanted to know about the emergency access road, no construction of traffic through the access road, the 50-foot buffer on their side of the lake undisturbed, the gate the same as Wingate, and if the buffer's disturbed, how it's planned on being replanted. I think I got it.
Okay, yeah, the notes I had from Mr. Hager, item 1 is yes, we do agree to install and maintain a limited access gate for emergency purpose only, and made it a width of only 1 lane, which we are okay with. And not having any construction through that emergency road at any time. We have no issues with that. The 50-foot buffer, I believe, I didn't see where he's pointing to, I think he's referring to at the end of the cul-de-sac adjacent to the property, and we have no problems with preserving that area and leaving it undisturbed. And then I think that was it.
Gate,
that we can.
Gate, same.
Yeah, and we will be, as we have had discussions outside of this meeting, again, we'll be happy to maintain it in the same manner that their association has, and we'll be glad to use that as a guideline for us to set up an agreement with our homeowners association to maintain it.
I'm not sure. I've asked you all the questions, and we may need to come back to you. But I do have a gentleman that wants to speak, so if you'll let him say what he has to say, and we'll hear a couple more of it.
Here's one for you.
Thank you, sir.
I'll make sure everybody has one of these. You take notes on it.
My name is Ray McAlevey. I also live on Indian Valley Lake. I am the last house. My wife and I have the last house that you can still get a boat and go out into the lake. All the houses from our house to the causeway are blocked. I designed this talk before I heard all the preceding talks about the same subject, so I'm going to change it a little bit, except at the end. The purpose of my talk is to accomplish 2 tasks. First, I want to show the way that Spain Park High School contributed considerably to the silting in of Indian Valley Lake, known as South Lake to some people. The second part will get the pictures that are up by the lower lake, the one that is to be filled in. First picture that I have in the book, and you've been passing, Peggy has a few. I don't have the sophisticated one. Please pass the books around so that you can see these pictures eventually. The first picture is Acton Creek exiting the pond at Fox Lake Horse Farm, which is on Valleydale Road across from Veterans Park. This is Acton Creek. This is what, I've forgotten. All of these pictures were taken by myself and Jim Randall. I'm the inspector of the elections at Valleydale Church. Jim is the guy that runs the voting machine. And he was the witness to these pictures to make sure we could always verify where we were standing. We did the pictures on January 30th. If you remember, January 30th was the huge rainstorm. It wasn't, I don't think it was as huge as they predicted, but it was a very big storm. And we took these pictures when it was raining and it was storming at the time. It was good, healthy rain. The first picture is Acton Creek, exiting the pond at Fox Lake Horse Farm on Valleydale Road across from Veterans Park. It's not very big here. It's about 5 feet wide or so, and it goes underneath Valleydale Road, goes into a swamp, and then it eventually gets into the pond and exits the pond. Then it's hit by all the runoff from Spain Park. The second picture is what I'm now calling Lower Acton Creek. It now has the Spain Park addition to its flow. You cannot tell in this picture, but in the next picture, which is Lower Acton Creek exiting the double culvert at Caldwell Mill, now you get to see that this creek is about 5 times the size as it was when it came into Spain Park. The next picture is one of the rapids that is in Acton Creek. And I think what was never realized was that a river or a creek that has been subject to real quick runoff doesn't tear apart too much if it's level. It just kind of floats down. But I don't think anybody realized how much drop there is between Acton Road and Indian Lake. It's tremendous. There are 7 rapids. I'm a kayaker, and I'm looking forward to running some of these rapids. But the drop is tremendous. We have some rapids that they're just huge. I didn't get a chance to actually see what the drop is. I estimate it might be 50 feet a mile, which is a very steep creek. The last photograph is similar to the one. It's a photo showing the devastation. But there is some real good news. Over the last 2 years, the amount of silt that's been deposited is growing less and less. My house is hung on the edge of not being blocked for quite a while, and it's not getting that much worse. And what has happened is Acton Creek is now about 30 to 35 feet wide. It has also eroded all the way down to bedrock, and it's now growing grass on the sides. So what has happened is Acton Creek has now kind of, you could say, learned to accommodate Spain Park High School. But the problem is, it can't do any more. Now the next set of pictures are of Moonglow area. The first one is what I'll call Lower Moonglow Lake, picture taken from the dam upstream. In the corner is some of the mechanics of the existing standpipe. The next picture is of the top of the dam, also showing the standpipe. We tramped all over the day we were taking pictures, and then tramped over one time with Peggy. We could find no evidence that the dam, the lower dam, the one that might go away if it were ever filled in, has ever been breached. This big runoff problem that they're talking about improving doesn't exist. That is shown in the very next picture. This picture was also taken, of course, on January 30th. This shows the water at the height of the rain exiting the outlet on what I'll call Lower Moonglow Lake. It's easy to see. There's almost no water. This thing about improving it is bogus. It's perfect now. The height of this, it just doesn't happen. This creek is very small, and it stays very small. So you have this water exiting. These lakes are not just one more settling pond. Because they're surrounded by woods, the picture of Moonglow Lake taken at the height of the storm, it's totally clear. There is no mud. And so there is no mud when it comes down. Now the creek, which I've started calling Moonglow Creek, simply goes under Jaguar Drive, and then it goes on downhill. And the next picture shows, well, the next picture actually, this is the Y, where if you look very carefully, you'll see the spillway coming down over the dam. And that's where this little bit of water from this whole area comes down that pipe. Not much of it at all. It's joined by a very small stream that comes along Caldwell Mill Road. Again, there's not much water in it. Now, it comes out of the other side of Jaguar Drive, it turns left, and in about 30 feet, it's joined by some water from Jaguar Drive, the surface water from Jaguar Drive. That surface water is a little bit bigger than Moonglow Creek is before it ever gets there. So this property right now is contributing almost nothing, just nothing, to any kind of problem whatsoever. This spillway that was built by O'Neill was just one fantastic system. It's good. It's good no matter what happens. The only idea that you'd want to raise a lake 4 feet to supposedly improve it is because you want to do it 4 feet to try to catch the water that's going with all these houses. So it's bogus to say you're trying to improve it. It's perfect now. 4 feet is not needed. It doesn't do anything. It runs perfectly. So there's just no reason to tamper with it.
Okay. Thank you for coming down.
One more statement. I want to make this statement. Hoover has built Veterans Park, 350 acres. Beautiful. I mean, Veterans down at our place is beautiful. You also did Moss Rock Park. You need to do Moonglow Lakes Park.
My name is Earl Wells. My wife and I live at 4652 South Lake Ridge Drive on the lake. There's approximately 48 houses on our street. And this Mr. Angus has quoted there are places on that lake were 10 or 15 foot deep 10 years ago, now they're 1 or 2. So I just want to say the 48 people that live on our street are against us. And most of those houses are over $500,000. So it's degrading our property values as that lake goes. And second of all, I don't think we want a 280 on Valleydale Road.
I'll be quick. First of all, I'd like to say, I don't envy your guy's job. You got a tough decision to make. And I want to thank John from Belcher and Signature Homes. I think they've done their best to tell you that this is a good place to build houses. But I think there's a lot of people that don't agree with that. And I happen to be one of them. And when I moved, I didn't tell you where I lived. I lived at 5181 Crossings Parkway, which is in the sanctuary that backs up to this property. And we paid extra when we moved there to live with woods behind us. And a number of people, I'd say maybe 20 houses, did that also. And the ones that built around the lake paid an additional, I don't know, what was it, 10,000?
15,000 each.
Okay. To be around the lake that we have there, which will be drastically affected by this property. But what I'd like to say is this. The city of Hoover, when we moved there, we were told you can't take down many trees because the city of Hoover has a policy about protecting the trees and keeping the neighborhood nice. And I assume that you still have that policy. I don't know if
You do have a tree ordinance policy in place.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Well, when I saw the trees behind us at where I live, I called O'Neill Steel at that time and said and asked them, would you consider putting this property in either a Forever Wild program or conservation easements? this property is rare. This property is one of the few places we've got left in this area where there's lakes and there's a school nearby, which could, this property eventually will be very valuable, I think, to the school and to especially the people, and to tie in with Veterans Park and make it even a better place than it is. And that's what's made Hoover, I think, so great and why we all like to live there. And that's because of the parks and because of the Cahaba River and because of Moss Park Reserve that's been set aside now. And this property is as valuable as any of those to this city to preserve it and protect it. Not only from the standpoint of trees there, but also the wildlife that we're going to kill and run off about there. And I think what these people here tonight are trying to tell you, are trying to suggest to you, that while Signature Homes and Jonathan are nice people, this property is just not somewhere it needs to be built. This is a property that needs to be preserved. We have come close to running the Cahaba River. We've just about bankrupt Birmingham by trying to increase the sewers, which were desperately needed. And now we're saying that this many more houses won't really affect the sewers here, that we can accommodate it. Can we? How many more of these places can we put on before we become like the city of Birmingham, a bankrupt community, because we can't accommodate the sewers? I just beg you to take a strong look at this property and put it in the Forever Wild program, or offer it to them, or set up a conservation easement to protect this for the people there and the school and the Hoover community. Thank you.
His name.
Okay, sir, can you didn't give us your name up here. Can you give us your name? We have to have you recorded.
My name?
Yes, sir.
Dan Murchison. M-U-R-C-H-I-S-O-N.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir. You got new information to add?
You know what, I just have one little thing.
You can't talk from the audience. We got to get recorded, I'm sorry. You have new information?
I do.
Okay, well, let's do it.
Well, a different person, I'll say it anyway. My name is Craig Watley, and my wife Liz and I live on Hohen Road. And we're not in a subdivision. We live on Hohen Road. We're the only house in the back there, right by the gate as you go into Belvedere property. And every morning, I go out of that driveway. And I don't know if you saw the pictures that he showed you. My trash can was the one without filter. So, I mean, that's how close I am to what's going on here. I saw a new plan that went up for that 9 acres, and apparently now there's been houses there. And those houses are backed up to my front door. When I bought that property, I bought it, and I paid extra just like you guys did in the sanctuary, the crossing, for the privacy in the woods. But the thing that I'm asking you guys not to do is please, I implore you, do not make a decision like this on an assumption. And what I mean by that is I see the traffic. I deal with it every day. I deal with it about 75 yards from where this driveway is going to be. And I've got a 15-year-old in less than a year that will be pulling out of that driveway at 16. I heard somebody say a little while ago on the traffic deal on the road that it was built on an assumption you don't know what the extra traffic that the school's going to bring. So that would be an assumption. The decision that you guys are making right now will affect everybody in the surroundings. Make a decision on this tonight and approve this to go forward without knowing exactly what that's going to do to that road. I can tell you I come out of that driveway every day. It is dangerous.
Let me explain the process and how this works. The city, I mean, if the schools end up with that piece of property, they will have to come back in front of the city and ask for whatever facility they want. And at that time, it's certainly open for discussion at that time. if they bring it back. What we're here today to look at, and only this, by this body, is what's presented in front of us today. It's not the school property, it is this property. And if the school chooses to put a building there, then they will have to come, and it's a conditional use approval, to get it approved.
Okay.
So we're not making any assumptions. What we're basing it on is the information we've got based on that development. And basically, what I heard was it was based on 145 houses, and there's going to be 109.
And I guess the point I'm trying to make to you guys, with all due respect, I see what the traffic's like coming out of this driveway, 75 yards from where it's going to be, with 0 homes. I see that building question. But the second thing I got is and I'll be quick. The second thing that I have is, oh, I'm sorry.
You got to talk to the microphone.
The second thing that I have is just a question. Is what we are doing, is it needed? Do we need a neighborhood? I mean, I got caught up in the 2006, 2007 housing market in Birmingham. You know, I lost money on property in Birmingham. And the more houses that we put in Birmingham, just stacking people on top of each other, there's plenty of houses for sale now. Why do we need this subdivision? It's not needed. It's not needed.
Here.
I'd like to say something.
You have new information?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I'm Jan Shaw. I live at 2041 Hovercrest Drive in Altadena Woods. And we exit out onto Caldwell Mill Road. And I've heard things about traffic studies happening right around Jaguar Drive. But what about more toward my end of the road? What about more toward the Cahaba River Bridge? You know, on up into, headed back toward Acton Road. The Cahaba River Bridge is a 2-lane road, and I don't think there's anything that's been developed that's going to expand that. And so I'm worried about what's going to happen, not just a turn lane. Obviously, I have those same concerns. But in the traffic, I have those same concerns. But are we talking about what's going to happen all the way down one end of the road and all the way down the other end of the road as well? And when we get to the Cahaba River Bridge, it's a restricted roadway, and there aren't additional lanes that can be added without affecting the Cahaba River. And also, if you are exiting out of the Altadena Lake subdivision, you cannot see. If you are exiting out of that subdivision, turning left, there's a curve, headed back toward Acton Road, you cannot see what is coming around that corner. And to talk about that many more cars, that's an additional area of danger.
Okay.
Thank you.
What has been said of one of your speakers.
I'm sorry?
It's regarding what has already been spoken by one of your speakers, but I have a question on it.
Okay. Come back.
Down there.
Yes, sir. Gotta get you recorded.
I'm Ross Padalino. I live at 1945 Indian Lake Drive. I also live on the Valley, I'm a member of the Valley Lake Association. And what's been said about, from Mr. Angus, about the bonds to protect any liability that might come from this development, is that going to be something that you will require to protect all these people?
How can you answer that?
Because just as a couple other people have said, a lot of things have been said and could be and would be and should be, but what we're interested in, and this is regarding the silt that's coming into the lakes, do you take in consideration to protect the people here against those things when you make your decision?
Oh, sure. Okay. I mean, they have to follow the erosion control plans, and that's part of the city's process. So yes, there is. As far as a bond, I don't know that that's something we've typically done in the past.
What else is available for protecting us against the liability of what they're saying doesn't happen?
and then damages even more what we have. Is there anything in place that protects us if what they say doesn't take place? If you don't know, I appreciate if you find out before you make a decision, because it would be a court action, would be what your option would be. What my option would be anybody's option. Okay. But we can avoid that if we're protected before all this happens. I think that the city has certain policies and procedures in place based on their investment management practices in order to stop siltation. What I've heard tonight is that the capacity for the big lake will increase greater than what you currently got out there. I think it's an improvement from what you got based on what I'm told. That's what's been said, and all I want to see is something backing that up, that's all. Well, I think the city is going to hold the developer to the standard that he has agreed to tonight. So, yes, I do believe the city has in place their inspection services department will require the developer to do what he says he's going to do by raising the dam 4 feet and have no more lead than is coming out currently. In fact, he's improved the situation. And that would be maybe at the Hoover City Council, whenever this goes to them and everything is, I don't know that they'll have any different perspective on it that we would have, other than I think it happens in staff in the city of Hoover with regard to the engineering department and the inspection services department that control what happens on the ground out there, and if there's issues, they address it. But it will go to them? Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir. More information? Yes. Okay. Please be brief.
I'm Jacob Hardin. I live in the Heatherwood subdivision. I just had a concern that something that hasn't really been brought up, and I would kind of like Hoover and Shelby County to sort of make an effort or a stand on it, that this sort of type of development, this high-density development, such as cargo crossings as well, it typically only enables a slab-on-grade construction, a builder for-profit construction, that lacks the proper protection in a tornado situation. They typically do not have a basement or a safe room. And I think that for this type of high-density development to occur, there really should be some type of stipulation for a community safe house or some type of safe environment, such as just happened last night in Hattiesburg with a tornado. So.
Yeah, well, as I understand it, this development is not going to be all slab construction. They're going to have basements.
So it is going to have basements?
Yeah, some of them.
Some, well, I mean, typically, I would assume that a lake that's been filled in is too low of an elevation for a basement. I would assume, right?
I'm sorry, you need to talk to us, not me. I understand.
I'm just assuming that a lake that's been filled in, that is, this is on sort of almost a wetland situation, could not have a basement. So
well, I don't know that they're doing basements on all of them, but I do know that
well, that's what I'm saying, that there should be some type of effort made by Hoover or Shelby County to protect residents, so that there's a community safe house for a community like this, or safer. That's just.
Well, you know, possibly, but that may be a discussion for a different.
I just think it's negligent for the city of Hoover and for a builder. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I have a question about some of the information that was presented.
My name is Jim Moon. I live at 3401 Crossings Glen. That's in Caldwell Crossings. My question is, on the traffic study, they indicated they would restripe the road to add a middle lane for a turn lane. And I think one of the presenters here showed that the traffic was backed up well beyond that turn lane to begin with. And what benefit would a turn lane do to traffic coming in and out of there if it's already blocked by cars seeking to turn on Jaguar Drive? The other question I had was the gentleman talked about
the trees now on the property, that the lake didn't rise with the runoff. Well, the trees are holding the water. What happens when all of this is clear cut, there are no trees, and all of this mud and water run into the lake? Where does that go? Does that go downstream? Does that fill the lake? Maybe it is a need for a 4-foot wall after you do that. But I think some of those questions have to be answered as to how to contain the runoff. We've seen how the lake was destroyed by the runoff from the River Chase Methodist Church, and this seems like this is some of the same about to happen here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I get you to answer a couple of questions he just asked with regard to the striping and north on Colorado Mill Road? Is there anything in the study that addresses going north on Colorado Mill Road around Colorado?
I'm not aware of anything specifically on the study off the top of my head. You know, I think part of this goes back to what Mr. Long suggested earlier, is that there are other factors that allow you to change the traffic patterns that are there now. And that's our intent, to rely on the traffic study along with working with the city and to determine what would be the best way to address the increased traffic that would be created by the proposal. I think the second comment or question was what happens when all of this is clear cut. I think we mentioned earlier, obviously, all of this is not going to be clear cut, or we wouldn't be able to preserve the amount of acreage that we're preserving on the application. So,
do you intend to put some basements in?
yes, sir.
You didn't hear that?
How many? Asked him if he intended on putting some basements in some of these, and he said he did.
How many?
How many?
Do you have a number on that?
Approximately 45, 50, somewhere in that range.
Roughly, got it?
Yes, sir. A little less than that.
Right.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any? Yes, sir. Do you have something new?
I think there's just a question about some information that was raised, but I hadn't heard until tonight. This will take 30 seconds. Let's get it played. My name's Jamie Grant. I live on, where do we live, Karen? In the sanctuary on Cross East Parkway. We're down on the eastern end of the lake. And so raising the dam 4 feet, hello Jonathan, how you doing? Good. Raising the water level 4 feet, has there been an engineering study that identifies the impact of that to the properties bordering the lake? Will the floodplain issues start to arise? What sort of erosion will that cause? And the trees that are part of the buffer at the water line, once they have roots that are submerged, what will that do to the health of those trees and the number of trees that survive in that buffer zone? Thank you.
Part of the analysis that we did, we looked at raising the dam 4 feet. The normal pool elevation doesn't change from its current elevation, so the only time water level would increase would be during storm events. It would come up fairly quickly over a period of hours and then go right back down. So right now the water level comes up 1.3 feet in a 100-year storm. It would come up a few more feet than that in a 100-year storm. But all being said, it does not back up onto any adjacent properties. And it's for a very short period of time that the water level would increase.
You don't want to have anything else to add to the
Thank you. I'm Dwight Sandlin with Signature Homes, 3545 Market Street. And there's a lot of folks here, and we want you to know we understand. We got it. We got it. You don't want development. We understand that. anybody doesn't want to exchange trees for houses. We've got that. We understand that. Doesn't matter how many home sites we have, doesn't matter what we propose. By and large, most people don't want a new development here. There's a lot of traffic, a lot of issues. We understand that. But after hearing this, I'm somewhat perplexed. By the way, Mr. Chairman, I really appreciate the pictures, but unfortunately, we got the picture in Chase Lake of the 40-acre park and 10-acre lake. And so I mean, I'm sure that you just missed the presentation. After hearing from so many passionate people about the density, I'm still confused. The presentation seems to be different from what was before the group, and the same information we've given to everyone else. We still keep talking about high-density development. We've had websites created, we've had a lot of TV, a lot of print, and this is really great. The folks that are creating the websites and the print and the TV interviews live 3.2 miles away from the site. They back up to the site. So consequently, the biggest interest there is to don't change my backyard. We understand that. If you look at the website, it sounds like we're gangsters coming in to rape and pillage. We're pretty proud of who we are and what we do. We create nationally ranked communities such as Ross Ridge, which was designated the best neighborhood in America 2 years ago. If the city will grant our request, we'll do this development with the same level of expertise that we've done there. The one thing I would like you guys to know is this. We met with the homeowners 3 different times, even though it's not a requirement of the zoning. We made lots of changes based on what they said they wanted, and it doesn't seem to make any difference. They wanted to reduce density. We did so by 42 home sites. Originally, we had 151. Again, I'm confused about the high density that we're talking about. If we wanted to go R1 and develop the same fashion that we did Woodford, we would have 130 sites there. But the reason why we didn't is because we would back up our real estate right back up to the Woodford and right back up to the sanctuary. If we had the same density as the sanctuary, we would have 145 home sites as opposed to 109. So we're just confused about the density issue. The issue equates to the same zoning as E2, which is about half-acre lots zoning. The reason why we're using the zoning that we're having is because of all the conversations we've heard tonight about water runoff. 40% of this site is going to be undisturbed. 40%. So, big number. The reason why this type of zoning is preferred now is for all the reasons we've heard tonight about the downstream problems that are created. By us doing this on the lake, by us doing this with leaving more natural ground, it holds water there and doesn't push it down the stream. The second thing they asked for was more distance between the existing homes and our new homes. To accommodate, we increased the buffer zones. The common area and tree increased from 24 acres, which was 35%, to 28 acres, which was 42.5%. This is an increase of 4 acres. The majority of this went to the buffer of Woodford, because we already had the estate side on the sanctuary. With that, we also created for them, and you have a copy of that in your agenda, the difference between the topography and the trees that are there and the views that we'll have. Our primary concern with Woodford was that to try to have the least impact on them as possible. The opposition also has concerns about the wildlife. An environmental study was done. I understand deer, I understand that, but there's no endangered species in the area. The opposition has concerns about values. The houses that we are proposing are around $400,000 on average. That in looking at the houses in the area, that's comparable to many. There's there's plenty that are above that, but there's more than below that. So our intention is to stabilize or not come in and change the values of the area. A lot of things have been said tonight. Bottom line is that we have far exceeded the zoning requirements with a final yield equal to E2. We've listened and we've adjusted our entire conceptual plan. If approved, our community will enhance the lives of 109 people with new homes in Hoover. The unfortunate part is those 109 people can't be here. We respectfully request that you approve our zoning as submitted.
Okay. Any questions from the planning commission?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to propose approval of the rezoning.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Let's go to West Davia. Let's all go to West Davia. Not your neighborhood, is it?
Can I give you that?
Yeah.
So we can put it in the record.
Will do, thank you.
You're going to take this with you? What? Was that a unanimous approval?
Yes, it was.
Okay, good deal.
Back to order, please. Anyone have any comments, please take it outside. We still have a meeting. Here's what I need. Last case we have on the agenda tonight is CO2 1303.
What happened to my list? Is that one?
Conditional use approval for the community building and food. Located on the U.S. property.
He's
What's your representative
that's
staff? You guys are gonna take it outside. Just do what I need.
You ready for me now? Yes, sir. Okay. On the property, there's an existing approximately 1,500 square foot building that is a 3-bedroom home that was built on the property. I think the age of the property is in the 30 to 40 year range. We plan on utilizing it along with the existing dock structures that are there to create an amenity building for the community, and then also add a pool and then parking area to go along with it.
Put lights in the parking area?
Yes, sir. I think the maximum height we have on there on the plan is 16 feet.
Any questions?
Who's calling?
He's calling too.
You know if we've had the landscaping looked at in this approved?
Yes, sir.
It is approved. Any other questions? Any motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
We're adjourned.
Now we'll see if we bring the donuts in.
Scott, just like that.
Buzz, we'll see you in the morning. Rod will have the donuts. He's going to make them tomorrow anyway. That line. He probably thought he was going tomorrow. Is that right? When the camera is.